You know, what's the real secret weapon that separates a thriving business from one that just fizzles out? It's not always about having a better product. A lot of the time, it comes down to mastering information. So today, we're going to explore this whole idea by following the story of a small startup called Gardeners Plus. And their journey is going to show us exactly why turning raw data into smart decisions is the absolute key to winning.
And it all started right here, with this really powerful idea from co-founder Mary Jones. See, she and her partner, Amanda Moreno, were ready to jump back into the workforce, and they saw a problem, a real need in their own neighborhood, and just decided, you know what, we're the ones to solve it.
So their journey kicks off with a pretty simple idea. But as you're about to see, success, well, it has a funny way of creating brand new, much trickier challenges. This is the story of how they navigated that complexity and what we can all learn from their experience. So what was this big idea? Well, Mary and Amanda spotted this huge gap in the market. On one end, you had teenagers who could mow your lawn, no problem. On the other, you had these super expensive professional landscapers for massive projects. But there was nothing in between, for things like choosing the right plants for the soil, transplanting shrubs without killing them, or getting the fertilizing just right. Jobs that need real skill, but aren't a full-blown renovation. And that's the niche Gardeners Plus was born to fill. And guess what? It totally worked. The business launched, clients were signing up left and right, and things were looking fantastic. But, and there's always a but, isn't there? A new problem started brewing, and fast. They were running the whole thing from their homes, using paper contracts and basic spreadsheets. As the business exploded, they just got buried in paperwork. The back office simply could not keep up with their own success.
And their crisis wasn't just one thing. It was this two-headed monster, hitting them from different sides. First, you've got their partner, Ed, the CPA. He was literally drowning, manually typing in every single contract, every single receipt. A classic case of data overload. But at the exact same time, Mary was facing a totally different problem, an insight gap. She could see that they were selling certain services, but she had no clue why. They were collecting all this data, but it wasn't telling them anything useful.
So, here's the crucial point. Solving their problem wasn't about just buying some new software. It was about adopting a whole new way of thinking. It's about mastering this transformation, turning messy, raw data into powerful, decision-making information.
Okay, let's start with the absolute basics. What even is data? Think of it as raw material, like ingredients for a recipe. For Gardeners Plus, data is a single sales receipt, a client's address on a piece of paper, a contract with one of their gardeners. By itself, one receipt doesn't tell you much about your business, right? It's just a single, unorganized fact.
Now, to make that data useful, you need an engine. Think of it just like a factory. You take your raw materials, all that data, and that's your input. Then you run it through a process. This is where it gets organized, analyzed, maybe you do some calculations. And what comes out the other side? That's your output, useful, actionable information.
And this is the magic trick. Information isn't just data. It's data that's been processed to have meaning in a specific context. It's no longer a messy pile of receipts. It's a clean report telling you which service is making you the most money. It's not just a list of addresses. It's a map showing you where your sales are booming. This is the kind of insight Mary was desperate for.
And that engine we were talking about, the one that does all this heavy lifting, that's what we call an information system. And notice, this is so important. It's not just the computer or the software, it's the whole ecosystem. The hardware, the software, the people who use it, and the procedures they follow, all of it has to work together to turn that useless data into invaluable information.
Okay, so how does this actually play out in the real world? This idea of looking at the whole engine, not just one single part, has a name. It's called systems thinking. And when a business applies it correctly, it can give them a massive, massive competitive edge.
Here's one of the most famous examples of this in action. Back in the 80s and 90s, Kmart spent millions on IT, but they put it all into marketing, and they got really good at creating demand for their products. The problem? Their other systems, like inventory, weren't connected, so they'd run a big sale, and the shelves would be empty. Now, Walmart, they used systems thinking. They invested in IT that connected their entire supply chain, from the cash register to the warehouse. They could see what was selling in real time and automatically get more of it on the shelves. See the difference? Kmart solved one department's problem, Walmart solved the whole business's problem. And well, we all know how that story ended.
So, let's bring this systems thinking right back to Gardeners Plus. To solve Ed's data entry nightmare, what they need is a system that can automatically capture sales data right when it happens. That's called a transaction processing system, or a TPS.
Then, to solve Mary's insight gap, they need another system that can take all that clean data and analyze it for trends. That's a business intelligence, or BI system. Two different problems solved by two connected systems working together.
And the lesson from Gartner's Plus isn't just for startups. The link between making smart IT investments and how a business performs, well, it's been proven time and time again. It's a critical factor for success, no matter what industry you're in.
And hey, this isn't just a theory. We've got hard numbers to prove it. A big study by the Hackett Group found that the world's absolute best-performing companies spend on average 7% more per employee on IT than all the other typical companies.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. 7%? That doesn't sound like a lot. But wait, because here's the payoff. That little extra investment is recouped 5 times over because of lower operational costs. It's not an expense, it's a strategic investment that makes the entire business run smarter, faster, and cheaper.
So this brings us right back to the final question, both for Gartner's Plus and for every one of us. Every single business, big or small, is sitting on a mountain of raw data. The real question is, are you just going to let it pile up and create problems, or are you going to build the engine to turn that data into your own secret weapon? What hidden intelligence is just waiting in your data to be discovered?